Welcome, everyone, to Hot Mess Moments.
Drink seltzer.
Our Lost podcast that you're listening into. Yes, Polar Seltzer. Yeah,
I thought this was a seltzer drinking episode. My apologies.
I wish. Could you imagine all it is just you drinking seltzer? It's like ASMR. You'd be making money for the rest of your life.
Speaking of which, Polar Seltzer.
Sponsor this podcast.
You can sponsor
Augusta 111 right there.
And Hot Mess Moments.
She literally won't shut the hell up about your stupid seltzer. Oh, I said it, girl.
How dare you? How dare you?
Well,
say such a thing. I feel like I'm about to get as angry with you as Sawyer and Michael are at each other this entire time.
Ooh,
this is the raft. Attention. This is Walt. This can of seltzer right here is Walt.
It is. But welcome on in, everyone. This is the Lost portion of Hot Mess Moments. For those that don't know how our show works, my name is Dylan Zahner, also known as 8-Bit Dylan. My favorite show of all time is Lost, but it's a show that Beth's never seen.
I haven't, and I'm completely spoiler free. Like, I don't know anything that's going to happen in this show. Any of the things that I kind of knew have already been revealed to me, so there's nothing that I know moving forward. And my name again is Beth, and I am Augusta Wind 11 online. We split up our show because my favorite show is The Nanny, which Dylan hasn't seen, and we released our Nanny podcast on Tuesday. Today is a Thursday, which means you are getting episode 2 of season 2, Adrift, which is from Lost. I'm very excited to talk about this.
Yes, there's so much juicy detail in this one. It just keeps ramping up. It just keeps ramping up. But before we get into like the actual episode itself, I wanted to bring up. Oh my God! Wait, no, it just left my head. It just left my head.
Is it how good Polar Seltzer is?
Girl, get her. Oh, I remember. I finally.
The power of Polar Seltzer.
This is a momentous occasion because Beth won't shut the fuck up about this man. I finally watched a Dr. Mike episode or video.
And?
I mean, it was all right. No, I was kidding. No, it was entertaining. It was entertaining.
I was
kidding. It was entertaining.
I like his style of like breaking stuff down, and like
he's cute.
Yeah, he's attractive, but he's also like he's such a straight boy. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that to it, but he's also like, but he's a good one. Like you can tell that he's a good one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will say the episode that I watched of his YouTube channel or the video was the Lost one, where he kind of goes and what?
I just burped.
Oh, I thought
a lot of bubbles came up.
I thought you just went, oh, when I said that. No. So I watched the Lost episode and don't recommend watching if you've never seen Lost. It spoils a lot.
Why I haven't done it.
A lot. Like it spoils all the way up to like season 5, I think, of like stuff. But
does he just go over like injuries and such that happen and like what is realistic or what you would and wouldn't do in a situation? Okay. Well, he does that in a lot of other things. So.
What's really funny is he talks about the very terrible idea of putting gunpowder in a wound and then lighting it aflame.
Does he?
He says the exact same thing you say. He's like, why did they not sweep off the gunpowder off his face?
Did he really?
He really did. And I shit you not. He keeps saying chest compressions, chest compressions, chest compressions.
I told you that is like he has shirts that say chest compressions, chest compressions, chest compressions.
Oh, okay.
Like that's his thing. Is that because one of the biggest issues that he has with all the medical dramas that he watches? So it started off with him watching shows like Grey's Anatomy, House, ER, like those kind of things, Scrubs even. Yeah. But then it moved into any show that has something medical on it, or injuries. I'm trying to suggest that he covers survivor medical evacuations because I thought that would be really interesting to be like.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I think it's. I think what I learned after watching that episode is Lost is fucking terrible. As we saw in this episode, Lost literally makes no sense.
No sense.
But you could tell that he hasn't actually never seen an episode of Lost because like he did not know like Jack
Anything.
was a doctor. He did not know like anything about the show. So it was interesting to see his context of like someone who's never seen the show, just like seeing this specific scene and being like, what the fuck is happening?
Well, that's what I really like about it, is that there are shows that he clearly knows a lot about. Like he's done like medical scenes from Friends. And he's like, I love this show. I've seen it many, many times. I know what the joke's going to be here. And then he breaks down like, you know, like when Rachel can't find her baby on the sonogram, and he's like, this happens a lot. And like, he'll talk about like those kind of things, but then he'll also talk about more serious things, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But all of that said, I'm excited that I have spread the magical word of Dr. Mike Warshawski. I think that's his last name.
Dr. Mike, I'll give you a pass. You were pretty good. The episode is really good.
Also, Dr. Mike, I have now moved to New York City. So if you would like to do a collab with Hot Mess Muffins, come on down.
It would make no fucking sense.
I want him to do, oh my God, what if he reviewed the nanny's medical stuff? Like you've only seen so far when Fran's getting like her tonsils out and such, but there's other stuff in the future. Wouldn't that be so good?
Yeah, like when Maxwell gets a severe STD and they have to like I just
wait. You
shut up. Shut the fuck up.
You know that episode?
I hate you. For those that are on audio only, it got very silent because Beth got this face like, oh my God, he knows. I'm like, shut up. I hate when you do this. I hate when you do this. I fucking hate it.
You know what gave me the strength to do that?
What?
Polar Seltzer.
No, we're not sponsored. What if I just censored every time you said it? It's like seltzer. Like
I would.
Or what if I said Dorma seltzer? Like
okay, so let's bring it back because we need to get into this Lost episode. We got a lot to discuss here.
There's a lot, yeah. So I think based off our new format, breaking it down, I think it makes sense for us to do it as the episode goes on.
Yeah. So
I wrote down everything.
I tried to write down the scenes at least, and because then I would remember. So we start off. It kind of blends right from the flashback into current times, which they haven't done that before like this. Yeah, I really liked it.
They start doing that. They start doing that a bit more in these season premieres going forward. No, you're fine. You're fine. They do this a bit more in the season premieres because the season premieres act as like bookends of like the chapters of the story. So they do that a lot because like typically what you saw in one episode will directly relate into what happens in the next episode. But after watching this, did you not feel that this could have been a two-parter?
Yes.
Of sorts.
I don't know why. I mean, clearly it was because of scheduling and that kind of thing, but it really should have been a two-parter. And I'm mad at you for not allowing me to watch this last week because we could be on the third episode and I could be one episode closer to figure out what the fuck is happening in the show.
The third episode is amazing. Like, I'm very excited.
Cool. I could have been amazed by it this week instead of next.
The third episode is really great. It definitely expands the universe and the lore. So I can't wait for you to in with that. So
basically what happens is we immediately are seeing the immediate aftermath of after the others have taken Walt and gone away. And Sawyer, who has been shot in the arm, saves Walt or Michael up on like some of the bamboo raft. Yeah. And they're up on there together. But before he saves them, this is where it doesn't make sense to me because I am a lifeguard. Well, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 15 years ago was a lifeguard. Ooh. And one of the things they tell you is that active victims can't really talk because what the problem is that their body is basically spasming to try to keep them above water. And there's not the strength in their lungs to breathe properly, which means you don't have support to talk. Your legs aren't moving. It's normally your arms moving up and down to try to keep you above water. So he's an active victim, but yet he's yelling, Walt, Walt, as he drowns.
I was like, damn, he's got lungs.
He's got pipes, bitch. But that's just not accurate. So I want the show to get
Oh my
it together.
God.
I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding. That's true
Dr.
stuff.
Wind 11 is on the case.
Dr. Wind 11. Oh, when I
hate
pass
it.
my Dr. Mike residency program test, I will be Dr. Wind 11 online. Okay. But so basically he gets saved. He's been drowning. Also, for whatever reason, pushing air straight up like this is going to get the water out, not tilting the head to the side. And like, there's just so much there.
It's again Lost, not a medically sound show.
We know. We've been
it's all
there.
over the place. Yeah.
So anyway, Sawyer literally saves Michael's life. And then
with a shot, with a bullet in his arm.
with a bullet in his
I'm like,
arm.
damn.
And you do hear Jin in the very beginning struggling and saying stuff in Korean, but you don't really see him again until the very end. But we'll get to that. So Sawyer and Michael are up on the raft and saving, and it immediately goes into a flashback of Michael's.
Yep.
Where we are seeing that he has the paperwork that we've heard that he's had before, where he had to like basically surrender parenthood of Walt to Brian so that Brian could adopt him, and also so that what's the mother's name?
I honestly couldn't remember. I just kept writing Michael's mom.
Wait, hold on. I did write that she was a cunt somewhere in here. Hold on.
I truly couldn't remember her name.
I thought I wrote it on here. Hold on.
I can look it up.
No, that says scene.
It might be Sarah.
Susan.
Oh.
Susan. Sounds about right. Anyway,
Susan Lloyd. Yeah.
I did say Susan is a cunt, so that is in there. Hey. Anyway, so Susan, in order for Susan to be able to take Walt to Rome, she needs to be able to have him sign off that, that Brian will become his legal guardian and that he surrenders basically his parenthood, which Michael does not want to do. He's having this conversation with the lawyer who's basically like, hey, if I'm the best you can afford, then like that's which I'm like, what a great business model to be like, I'm a shit lawyer and you and whatever. But I also, one thing that I thought was just like really important, especially coming off of September 11th weekend, they purposely had the Twin Towers in the background in order to show you what time frame this is, because this was shot in 2005, maybe. Yeah. So clearly the Twin Towers already would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
And I thought that this was really powerful. This shows that this has been at least 4 or 5 years since they've been on the island. 4 years, I'm guessing, 3 years. So when you're thinking about the age, and of course we see how old Walt really is towards the end of the episode when this is all going down in the flashbacks, this is kind of powerful to know that this is something that he continually thinks about, that is important to his development as a father.
Yeah, it's something he's been fighting for years.
For years.
Yes. So then Locke.
So then but before that I wrote, why aren't they looking for Jen? And then we'll get to that in a second. So then it turns to Locke and Kate.
So it like rewinds time. So it's like we're seeing it from Locke's perspective of before Jack showed up.
Right. So now we see Kate has been dropped in and Locke is going down into the bunker himself. And so he gets down there, he's down the hatch, he's in this bunker. He takes his shoes off in order to try to not make a lot of sound.
See, I was confused by that at first. I thought I get why he took his shoes off. I thought he was taking his shoes off in case someone else showed up to show people, hey, I've been here. But
I think he did it just for the sound. I think because your socks will make less noise than like rubber or whatever would.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I thought he was doing it for the sound because you see him kind of like slithering about. I finally saw a whole bunch of the 108s like on the wall that you were talking about.
The weird abstract paintings. Yes.
So he's going through and he gets to
the medical cabinet.
The medical cabinet.
Dharma.
Yes. Okay. So then I wrote Dharma ? So there's like a logo that says Dharma on it. So
what's your theory on Dharma?
Well, To give my theory, I need to like jump ahead in the episode. So maybe
fine.
I will wait on that theory.
Okay. Let's wait.
Okay. So clearly Dharma means something. No, I'll just say it now. I think Dharma is some kind of company that was maybe doing experiments on this island or has orchestrated everything that's happening here. I think I wouldn't be shocked if they were the ones that are behind maybe the illness on this island, those kind of things. I still think that there's a mythical aspect to this island, whether it's in a different dimension, if it does represent some kind of waiting place, those kind of things. But I think that there is some kind of corporation that is involved with it. Because as we know in this world, everything has some corrupt capitalism bullshit happening. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is here too. So I think Dharma represents some kind of like military arms, like biological warfare kind of base that this has probably been abandoned since or something like that.
Yeah, because there is that interesting moment that happens right after this where Desmond catches
Locke, and he puts a shotgun, a rifle to his head, and he says, "Are you him?
Yeah,
are you him?" And he asks him multiple times, and Locke says, "Yeah, I'm him." And I'm like, "Whoa, that's not the question that's a bold way to go with it." Because
he's very confident in being wrong, Locke.
Because wouldn't your instinct be to say, I don't know who him is. I can tell you who I am, and you can make the determination of like that kind of thing. But like he's just like, yeah, I'm him. Like the way he's asking, "Are you him?" does not come across as like this is someone he's excited to meet, whoever him is.
Yeah.
He's like, "Are you him?" Because if you all got to blow your head off, like that's what it's coming across. So I'm like, bold move to say, "Yeah, I'm him."
Wait. I took it as when he says, "Are you him?" and then he says yes, he lowers his gun as if he's been like waiting for something.
No, I know that. What I'm saying, that's after he said yes, though. Like,
oh yeah,
when someone is pointing a gun at you and you're saying, "Are you him?" Like,
yeah,
I would probably not say yes, because if you like, my initial thought would be, then I got to kill you. Like, that's what they're probably going to do.
Totally.
So he really did a 50-50 gamble and said, "Yeah, sure. I'm him."
Yeah,
cool.
I'm great. Yeah.
My destiny was to come here for sure. And yep, there we go. I'm him. What can I do you for?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it have been even better if he was talking about him from the Powerpuff Girls and it was just like this fabulous day coming through?
Sign me the hell up. I know I would hate it because they're already making the live action. Well, TBD, they might cancel that shit because there are so many issues with it. The live action Powerpuff Girls. But I just want to see the live action Powerpuff Girls just to see him and see what they cast for him.
Him is clearly actually a they, him, right?
Oh, for sure. Like,
right.
Queer as fuck, gender non-conforming as fuck.
If they don't cast someone like Billy Porter, we revolt.
Yes. Though, please don't cast Billy Porter.
I don't want Billy Porter.
Yeah.
I want someone like Billy Porter, somebody who plays with gender, somebody who, I want somebody who is genderqueer in that role. I don't want some fucking straight cis fucking bitch coming on through and being like, "I'm playing him." Fuck off. No, you're not.
You know what would be really funny?
Okay.
It'd be awful. This would be awful. It doesn't at all fit your narrative. Give me Lil Nas X in his first acting role as him. It would be awful, but I kind of want to see him in like an extravagant, like,
I would love that to a certain extent, but I just want like genderqueer actors to get a job that represents them. I'm sick of like cis people.
Yeah.
That's like having like fucking Scarlett Johansson play like, what was it, a Hawaiian Asian woman? Like,
oh no, that was Emma
Stone played the Hawaiian woman, but didn't Scarlett play like an Asian woman?
I mean, yeah, you throw a dart on a dartboard of different races. Scarlett Johansson's definitely taken that role.
Definitely. But anyway, So basically, he lowers the gun at first when he said, "Yes, I'm him," and then he realizes that he's not whichever guy he's looking for, and then I don't think this is. Oh,
Yeah, so
continue.
that's basically the end of that scene. Because
Right.
then it flips back to Sawyer and Michael.
Right. And then I said, finally looking for Jin. So now we see beforehand, Michael had been yelling for Walt, and Sawyer said, "Why are you doing that?" Like, Walt was taken on a boat and he's on his way out. Like, what are you doing? So now they're fighting, which is understandable. Tensions are high, that kind of thing. What I don't like here, which is, I understand why both of them are fighting, but I'm also kind of like, okay, like, Sawyer just took a bullet and saved your life.
Yeah.
Like, I understand your son is gone and that there's a lot of stress here and whatever, but like, I don't know, maybe don't be a fucking douchebag to Sawyer. And also, Sawyer, you have a little fucking compassion. Like, this guy just lost his son, and you're just sitting here like, well, yeah, baby. Like, I just.
That's what he said. He said exactly that.
But this is when we start seeing, holy fucking shit, there's a shark because it's attracted to the blood.
Which is funny because, for Sawyer bleeding, there really wasn't a lot of blood. Like,
well, okay, but like,
which is like a weird medical thing as well. Like, he didn't wrap his wound up. What I thought he was going to do after he took the bullet out was to rip a
well, this is where we will get to that portion because we are not quite there yet, because Dr. Wind has some issues with that scene.
No, please don't make Dr. Wind a real. Oh no.
Okay, so basically, now we know that there's a shark, and I wrote, not a fucking shark, because I was all scared. I don't like sharks. Anyway, then we go to a flashback before we get to the scene where Sawyer pulls out the bullet. And this is where we're in the court, or like hearing, basically, where the two lawyers are facing off. And we see that basically everything, like, it's just like, I'm so frustrated because that this kind of shit does happen.
Oh, yeah.
And with custody, and it's just like Susan. I wrote it like this: Susan is a cunt who deserved to die. And I'm honestly like, I understand what she is talking about the health and welfare of her son when we get to that point in a couple flashbacks or whatever.
Yeah,
I understand that. What I don't understand is how she could be so cruel as to not realize that she manifested this, and she has literally ripped this kid away from his father. And that, yes, you might be able to provide all these wonderful things for him, but to completely take Michael out of the equation is not going to be helpful for him, regardless if you have Brian in there or not. Like, I don't understand why she can't, like, pay for a flight for Michael to come see him, why she can't allow, like, cards to be given to him. Like, there's so many aspects here where I'm like, you are the issue. I'm sorry. You are the issue in this situation.
Like, it's so weird too. Like, I feel like there's like gaps in the story we aren't seeing. Oh my God, wait, I have a wine lip. I've been drinking wine.
I have seltzer lips.
So it's so weird. I feel like there's like a gap.
Dehydrated.
I hate that. You can just take that back. Give that back to Dr. Mike.
I have juicy hydrated lips. Thank you to Polar Seltzer.
Thank you to Dharma Seltzer. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. So I feel like there's a gap somewhere in this storyline because Susan really does go from 0 to 100. Like, she goes from, like, as we've seen in the first season, to wanting to, like, she's very, very driven for her job to the point where she is willing to abandon Michael to fulfill said role, to then wanting nothing to do with Michael, which makes no sense whatsoever. Like, I'm wondering if, like, did Michael do something to Susan that, like, causes this animosity, or, like,
and this
what's going
is,
on?
I want to sit back and say this, okay? And I truly do, like, I'm not going to sit back and pretend like women are never an issue. But we have seen that Michael has some clear boundary issues sometimes, and has an issue with being told no, and that kind of, like most people in the show do, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing things through Michael's lens.
Yes, fully.
We don't get the benefit of seeing things even through Walt's lens. We're not even seeing things from that perspective, right?
Yeah.
Not that Walt really would have had much to remember with this. We don't get to see things from Susan's lens. We don't know if she felt like he was emotionally manipulative. We don't know if she felt like he was abusive in some capacity. I have dated somebody who was super, super nice, but also was incredibly emotionally manipulative. And I didn't really know it until I broke up with him. And I went, oh my God, that was like really kind of messed up what he did.
Yeah.
And like his intention, I don't think was to do that, but he wasn't aware that he was doing that. But that's absolutely what the impact of it was, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there were probably things here that were missing, but I also think that she is just being unnecessarily cruel from what we can see too.
Yeah, it's so pointed and so targeted. It's really gross. And this flashback, this lawyer that she has hired is a good ass lawyer. She is aggressive. She's making Michael like stumble on his own words, admit to things that he shouldn't be admitting to. Like that's why, and we'll talk about this later, it's very weird when she Susan admits that she thinks she's going to lose, that is just her being manipulative. It's not her actually thinking anything else. It's her. I do think that she's trying to protect Michael from spending more money and such and all that kind of stuff. I do think that that's what she's trying to do, but she's coming at it at a way that she knows that she can get to him. So then we get back to the raft, and Sawyer decides to pull out the bullet. Oh my God, it's so stupid. Why?
Well, let me tell you, Dr. Wind has something to say about that. Dr. Wind 11. What have I said multiple times, because Dr. Mike has told me multiple times. And also, it's just fucking common sense at this point.
Clench your booty hole.
Yes. And you just put a finger. No, I'm just kidding. You don't pull out anything that is lodged inside of you. Yes. The reason for that is you want to, if that is actually controlling the bleeding at this point, when something is lodged in you, if you've been stabbed with something, if you have something sticking out of you or whatever, it's actually controlling the bleeding. And if you remove that, it's going to do damage on the way out as well. And it will open up more blood vessels and create more of a bleeding problem that will be harder to control. You want to keep it in there as long as you can. In this situation, it's going to hurt regardless if the bullet is in there or not, Sawyer. You're also in the fucking ocean with salt. That has got to be the worst fucking feeling.
Like, I don't understand at all. Like, and this, okay. I have a bone to pick with this. I get it. They clearly filmed this in a giant pool. They clearly did.
I know exactly what you're going to say. Continue.
So they clearly filmed this in a giant pool. You can clearly tell the pool does not have salt water in it. Like, their bodies are not reacting as if they are in a giant body of salt water. It literally, like, it's as if they are in a giant
chlorine.
Yeah. It's also really weird that
their hair is like, the blonde hair is turned green. It's really, no, I'm just kidding.
Could you imagine? And then the lighting is off. Like, the lighting is so weird here. It's clearly like a singular light. They're like, it's the moon, but it's like a bright orange light.
Like what is a harvest moon? Like, what's happening?
What is and it's like hella close. It's like extremely close light on them, because you can tell by the reflection in the water that like someone is just holding a light like right off camera. But it bothers me specifically that terrible acting choices, I think, on Sawyer's part here, because you would be in so much fucking pain. And
It's just a
not,
lot that doesn't make sense. Like,
nothing about his character screams, I'm in pain now and I need to get safety now. Like he's just like, oh, no big
Sawyer
deal. Oh, it
is,
hurts.
out of all of them, and this includes Jack, is the biggest drama queen out of everybody.
Yes.
He's very much like always oscillating between I'm the most important person and also I'm the shittiest person of all time and I need to die. Like he literally operates on those two, and we see it like every time it goes to them, we don't know which version of that we're going to get. Are we going to get the Sawyer who's like, hey, shut up about your damn son. I helped save your life. You're the problem, blah, 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 blah. I'm the best person in the world. And the next time it's going to be like, well, let me pull a bullet out and attract a shark and then also destroy this thing. And then I'm going to try to swim and then you have to shoot a shark. Like what the fuck? Like there's literally nothing consistent here, which makes it really hard for me to follow this character.
Agreed.
So anyway, he pulls out the bullet out of his arm. They fight some more. It's the same argument in every scene. Like it doesn't go anywhere for a long time. And I kind of like, that's the issue I have a little bit with this particular story.
Oh, you didn't give a rating.
I will wait till the end to give a rating.
Okay. I'm down for that.
What? I thought I was doing something smart with the numbers next because we go back to the bunker and he asked Desmond asked like, so you say you were in a plane crash? And he said, yeah. And he said, how long ago? And he said, 44 days ago. And I thought I was like, oh, 44. That's one day after 43. And then I remember the number's 42. And I was like, oh, okay. So that there's nothing there. Like I thought maybe there would be some significance of it being like the end of the numbers portion. And then I went, never mind.
But there is something interesting here that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So Locke mentions that 44 days ago they crashed. Desmond seems very intrigued by this. He's like, interesting. Like he has this like look on his face of like, interesting. Like 44 days ago, you say, like as if like he knows more than he's letting on about like, does he know more about this plane crash? Does he know like something? Does he know something that might have been related to like why they're here or how they got here or like what's going on? Because that's like the face that Desmond has in that moment. It's kind of like,
yeah, it's very interesting. And so he brings him over and there's this wall that has a whole bunch of like what I'm assuming is like he keeps track of how many days he's been there. Locke also discovers that he has like a artificial source of sunlight, which is what we were trying to figure out what that light was. I still couldn't get a good sense of where that is. Is it in a like neighboring tunnel? Is it outside? I couldn't get a good sense of that.
I think we get a better sense later on.
Okay, then I don't want the answer then.
It's nothing important. It's basically like it's just another room.
Okay,
like,
that's what I figured. It was just on there. So Desmond sees Locke as a threat, and so he tells him to tie himself up. And he said, well, you don't want to tie me up. You want to... And also he had made Locke give up his machete, and so that kind of thing. Yeah. And so he said, you want to tie her up. She's a fugitive. And so Kate looks like really betrayed. And then he said, fine, then tie her up. And so he ties her up and he slips a pocket knife into her belt. And when he says, like, I'm doing the best thing for all of us. And then she gets shoved into this room. She frees herself. She does exactly what every guy on TikTok who's trying to teach women how to like break out of like zip ties and all that kind of stuff. Like in that situation, she shimmies it up and over, and then she's able to free herself with the knife, and she's good to go. She finds a light source, turns it on, and she is in the food pantry. Oh my God.
It looks so good. Before I do want to touch on a few things before we get into like the in-depth stuff about that pantry.
Okay.
There's two big scenes that happen. So Charlie, or Claire and Charlie are having this moment where they're kind of discussing like, hey, what's Jack doing? Like, why is Jack going to go figure out like the hatch or something like that? And Claire pulls out the Virgin Mary statue that Charlie has been hiding. And Of course, he lies to Claire and admits he's like, oh yeah, that could be super useful later. She's like, but are you like religious? That's like really weird. It's just a statue. And he's like, oh no, it's the Virgin Mary. It's it's nice to have a little bit of faith around here.
Which I just think is so interesting because he could have, if you're going to lie, you might as well just go, like, you used to be very religious, like, just go back on that,
Yeah.
But it is like, once again, the very obvious foreshadowing that he's going to struggle with whether or not he wants to go back to heroin now that he has a pretty big supply of it that he could go to anytime he wanted.
But we do learn in the scene though that he hasn't started yet. So
correct.
Like, he is still dwindling on dwindling. He's still dwelling on the fact of do I or don't I?
Right.
And then Sawyer gives us. There's another scene where we go back to Sawyer and Michael in the ocean. And Sawyer gives us a pretty big fact here. He's like, that boat is not built for the open ocean and had to come from a port, and that port has to be on the island somewhere.
And so he kind of deduces that this was the others. The others were coming after the child. We thought it was the baby. They were coming after Walt. They knew where Walt was. They came to us because of Walt. And there's a lot of whose fault is it kind of situation here. And like when you're stuck in the middle of the ocean, I'm sure that like there's not much else to think about, but like you can't play the what if game. You can't play the wow, I wish we could have done this differently game at this point. You have to focus on what is the information that we know and how can we get back to a place where we can do something about this. Neither one of them, like that is what Michael should be doing. Right? If you want to be the father that saves Walt, like Sawyer is pretty much good for nothing right now. He has shot arm. He has a fucking shark coming after you guys because he's bleeding.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And Sawyer
he now opened up the wound a little bit more. Like what the fuck? Like regardless. So that's important. And then we go back to Kate in the food pantry. And so we see all the food and such in there. We see her grab
an Apollo candy bar.
Which that definitely looked like a really horrible protein bar. It did not look like a candy bar. And all I could think of to myself was, imagine you have been stuck on an island for 44 days. You finally find a room full of endless supply of food, which obviously it's not endless, but like you have so much food at your disposal. You find candy. You're so excited. You take a bite and it's a protein bar. Imagine how upset you would be as a person.
So you want to, first off, completely agree. I'm going to drop a fun fact on you. Are you ready for this?
1 second. Okay. I'm ready.
So Apollo candy bars Lost popularized the Apollo bar. The Apollo bar has shown up in several different mediums now after this. To name a few, you can find Apollo bars in the show Insatiable on Netflix. Okay. Scrubs.
Okay.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay.
Once Upon a Time, which makes sense.
Yeah, same writers.
The Purge election year. Obviously in Lost. It's also been in a few video games such as Call of Duty. And I believe that there was even a reference to it in Cloverfield. And so there's like, it's this funny, weird Easter egg that for some reason, and I'm going to stop you now. The Apollo bar is not like a lore defining thing in Lost. It was just such a defining weird thing that just caught on in different shows and stuff that like it shows up it's like the go-to candy bar for a lot of TV shows now. See,
I just maintain that it looks like a really shitty like chocolate peanut butter like protein bar, and I would be really sorely disappointed. I'm like, oh, I think I'm about to bite into like a Reese's peanut butter cup and it's fucking protein. I would have been so mad. Even though that would have been good for me in a moment, I would have been mad. But anyway, so we see her kind of look around. She grabs a whole bunch of the bars and throws it into her pants, which I'm like, you're going to lose those, but whatever. She puts some crates together, is able to pop open the vent, gets up inside the vent.
Yep.
which like surprising that for someone who is so, there's just a couple things here. Like, I can't believe, I know that Desmond's really preoccupied with Locke. And we'll get to that in a second as to why. But it is like really bold of her to immediately turn on a light when he could have probably seen that the light got turned on.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's not like she was quiet when she popped open the vent and then got up into it. I can't believe that she's not caught in this moment. But regardless, that has to do with probably the fact that like we eventually see that there's some kind of alarms going off, and Desmond takes Locke into like the computer control room. And he says, do you know how to operate this? Like a computer. And he's like, yeah, I know how to do this old ass computer. And he's like, sit down. And he said, put in these numbers. And then he gives him the numbers. And then he's saying, press execute. And like Locke doesn't know whether or not to do it. And he's kind of like, hesitating, and eventually does it. And this tally thing comes up and says 108. And he's like, oh, okay. And so that was weird. I don't really have much of a theory behind that. I mean, I don't know if it's just like every day something has to equal 108. So they have to put in those specific numbers. Like, I don't know what that's about yet.
It is interesting, especially because it was counting down and then like it had to reset to 108. And then there was like an alarm associated with it. Yeah. So it's like, we don't know much about what exactly this computer does or what this like whole mechanism is, but it seemed very important to Desmond. He was like,
it seemed like it needed to happen ASAP and like all that stuff. But it was also interesting. Like, I don't know why Desmond would trust him to do it then. Like, if you've had to do it, like, why don't you just do it yourself? So that is something that I think is really interesting. Like, why make Locke do it? The other thing that's really important in this particular scene is that Locke is able to get that his name is Desmond out of him. And Desmond asks how many people have gotten sick. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, how many people have gotten sick? And he's like, I don't think anybody has, which he knew that the French woman that Rousseau had mentioned that people had gotten sick before. Are you falling asleep?
Me? No.
You just went like this. Like you were.
Oh no, the chair came out from underneath me.
It looked like you like jerked awake. Or something
no. I'm definitely not asleep. I'm reading, and then I was doing that thing where I like balance, and then I like went down a little bit too much on my chair.
Looked like you were like, yeah.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm definitely not asleep. No.
Oh, that's so funny. But then
it is late, though. It is late.
It is very late. And so then we go back to the raft and we see the shark is back. And Dylan made me rewind, or like he had to rewind this because I literally blinked or closed my eyes for a second. Because I went like, I literally went like, because I was like upset that the shark was back. Yeah. And he was like, you got to watch. And so there's the brand Dharma on the shark, which tells me once again that I think that Dharma is behind outfitting this island. It makes me wonder, is there a polar bear that has Dharma on it? Are some of the arms supplies that are in the ship say Dharma on them? Like, I don't know, stuff like that. Maybe. So did the little prop plane have Dharma? Will the little Virgin Marys have Dharma on it? So like, that's what I can't wait to see.
Heroin Virgin Marys.
But that is not my only theory about the polar bears. Are we ready for Beth's cracked out theory?
Oh, here we go.
Of the week. Are we excited?
What is it?
Are we excited? So then we have the last memory of Michael, where we see him say goodbye to Walt before Walt was moving. So Walt was like 3 here.
Yeah.
And he gives him a little polar bear. You said he likes bears, right? Gave him polar bear. I think the reason why the others are after him, and we know that things happen with Walt, is that the island is some kind of manifestation of random things from Walt's mind and past. So the
Okay.
polar bears come to life because he was given this polar bear, but he doesn't know what it means. And therefore, and like it doesn't make sense on this island, but it also doesn't make sense in his life. Ergo, polar bears are real. And the others want to use him to make sense of the things happening on this island.
Okay.
I think the others might work for Dharma
Okay.
or they might be against Dharma.
Okay.
I don't know either way, but I do think Dharma is a company.
Okay.
That is like, I feel like this could be almost like a Jurassic Park situation. They started creating this island for various different reasons. Things get out of hand. It's a manifestation of all this other weird stuff, mythical things. And like Walt has this power. Walt also seemed to know what was going to happen with the hatch because I think he had this vision, like maybe he had helped manifest these things. Maybe he's the are you him that Desmond's thinking about. Like there's a lot here. So my cracked out theory is that somehow this island relates to random shit
All
in
right.
Walt's young life.
That is definitely
Even
a cracked out
though
theory. I'm
I
down.
know that the island is much older than him because he's not 16. Rousseau's been there for 16 years. But I think he might be some kind of like missing part of that island.
Okay. Interesting.
Which might explain why his mother is such a bitch. Because she was literally a demon. But also his mom dies like kind of weird, right? Like some kind of like blood disease or something.
Yeah, I think it's like a aneurysm or something.
Which like she was like super young and healthy. So like did Walt bring that on or did the island bring that on in order to bring him home because he is a child of the island and he is necessary for the formation of things on this island? We don't know. Cracked out theory. Beth, 100% right. We know it.
100% right. Absolutely. We can now, like, I think wrap up the flashback stuff. So
yeah,
we did kind of skip over one flashback scene. We did talk about it a little bit where it was like Susan has that meeting with Michael. And
like, and she just emotionally manipulates him and he signs off and that kind of thing.
Then we see the fruits of her labor and Michael agrees. Michael ends up caving and is like, you know what, you're right. But he has one defiant moment when he gives Walt this polar bear and he calls himself his father. And he's like, I am your dad. And he's like, you know, I won't be able to see you for a very long time, but, you know, I will still be there for you. Like whenever, wherever, I will be there for you, basically, is what he is saying. Yeah. And obviously Walt doesn't really understand what's going on. He's too young, but it's really cool to see Michael's character, even when he has given up control of his son, he is still defiant against this awful woman who he ended up having a child with because Susan's a piece of shit.
But that's the other thing that I think is just so interesting. The first time we have an episode with Susan and we get the first flashbacks of Michael and everything, it never seemed like Susan was ever really interested in being a mother.
Yeah, she was just she's more career driven. And I think she is now in this mindset of I want to make the perfect family. And she doesn't want to have that family with
I don't
Michael.
even know if that's really it. Like
it might not be.
I just feel like, again, I think that there is something that's drawing her to have to be towards Walt that's not driven by love, but more out of like, it's not even out of a sense of duty. It's out of a sense of I need to be there for him. Which kind of reminds me and ties me back to like this whole like medium thing with Claire, where he was like, you have to be the one that raises this child. Nobody else can be. And so I do think that maybe there's something similar where like maybe she was told the same thing by the same medium.
Maybe. You never know. You never know. It all comes back to that medium. So then we get this insane moment. Because we kind of skipped over a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, but the raft breaks and Sawyer makes a break for the pontoon, and they're both on the pontoon. And there's this insane moment where somehow they slept overnight and Sawyer didn't bleed out to death.
Okay, before that, somehow Michael can shoot in the dark and hit a
Oh.
shark and
Yeah.
kill a shark with a handgun, not a rifle, a
Yeah.
handgun, can shoot a shark that is giant and going after prey. Don't get that. And also doesn't manage to shoot Sawyer. And Sawyer manages to
It's a
get up on
mess.
one of the pontoons, brings over Michael, they get on. Then the next day, Sawyer wakes up and Michael is like crying, like with his hands over his eyes, as if like they weren't able to like look to their left and see that they're right back to the island. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, dude, like I know that you're crying and such, but like, could we
That'd be
look
like the
to
first
the left?
thing. That'd be like the first thing I'd be looking for is like, where's the fucking island? You know what I mean?
Seriously, like the moment I could see any kind of light outside. So they get back to the island, and as they get on the beach, they hear Jin yelling. And they look over and they see Jin running through the woods, like into the jungle, back onto the beach. His hands are tied behind his back with like what looks like a spear of some kind, like maybe through his tied hands. And he's yelling, others, others. And Michael and Sawyer are trying to figure out what's happening. And they look up and there's a group of people who kind of look like they're dressed more like primitively. Like there seems like
and they're carrying very primitive weapons.
They're carrying primitive weapons kind of thing coming out. I want to be very cognizant. This is just a moment of me trying to like police myself in 2021. I almost said savage like, and I want to make sure not to say those words when I don't know anything about these people yet. Because we have a tendency as a society to call people who have a more primitive or indigenous kind of background savages. And that is by far very much a microaggression. And I just had this moment where I was like, you know what? I don't even know who these people are. For all I know, and they could be my theory, these could be the people from the tail end of the plane.
They could be. You never know.
Which is actually who I definitely think that it is. I think this is the other group of people from the plane. I don't think it's the actual others, but because Jin can't speak English and they can't communicate with him, I think that's what the issue is. I think the others are long gone. I don't know why they would stick around and try. They would have just killed Jin at this point. So that's why I think this is definitely the people from the tail end of the plane.
It's exciting though.
I think this is where we see Michelle Rodriguez come out in
Miss Ana Lucia. We'll have to find out. Next week's episode, I want to get your theory on what you think. Who is it about? It's called Orientation. What do you think it's about? What do you think is going to happen?
Orientation is I think of orientation is in two different ways. There's orientation trying to like orientate yourself like on a map or whatever, but there's also like when you are like new in school or a job or something and you go through orientation. So I have a feeling that this is either a Kate-centered episode. Or a Jen-centered episode.
It is a Locke-centered episode.
Oh, so close. How did I forget Locke? I sat there and I was like, well, who's in the bunker? They just did Jack, so it can't be, it has to be Kate. I literally forgot about Locke. That makes much more sense.
Yes, Orientation is a great episode. It's I like it. I like it a lot. So MVP,
LVP, and rating for this.
Rating.
I'm going to do my rating first. My rating is a 9 out of 10. This is a really great episode. The only thing that I think detracts from it is like how unnecessary a lot of the Michael and Sawyer parts are. They could have cut an entire one or two of those little scenes out and it would have been fine. Like they literally could have gone to, we got off the raft and now we're on the pontoon and we shot the shark. Like they could have gotten to that and argued on, like it just seemed like it went on too long.
Make it a 2-part premiere. I don't understand it.
It made me like it sucks because I've been waiting to figure out what was going to go on over there. And then this entire episode, every time it went to them, I was like, okay. And like, could we go back to the hatch? Like, that's what I was thinking. Or can we move this along a little bit? So that's the only reason why I'm giving it a 9 instead of a 10 out of 10. But I really, really did like this episode. I liked the flashbacks, made me feel things. And then I also really like that we're getting momentum with things like, ooh, okay, this isn't just kind of like this isn't a slow burn. We're jumping right in. So I'm kind of here for that. My MVP is gonna go to Locke. Okay. Locke does what he can to help with Kate and try to navigate the system. I think he also has a way about him that helps calm Desmond down instead of doing anything rash. That I don't think Jack would have been able to do if Jack was the one that went down. But now that Locke is down there, and of course we do see where, like we picked up last time, Jack has that moment. We also see that when Kate is in the vent, when the gun gets shot, she almost gets shot in the face. So that's not good. Wow.
Terrifying.
And the other thing is, you did mention this, we didn't talk about this before, but when Jack is down there and the song is playing, and Kate is yelling, Jack, Jack, if you listen to it the first time Dylan said that, you can actually hear her faintly yell Jack, which is kind of cool.
It's like a neat little nod. Like I don't remember if anyone actually ever caught it, but like if you go back, you can hear it.
I like
for
that.
Sure. Yeah.
So then, so that's my MVP. I know it's what a shocker. Beth said Locke again, but I can't give it to Michael or Sawyer. I can't give it to Kate. I can't give it to Jack. I can't give it to Charlie or Claire. Who else am I going to give it to? So it has to go there. LVP is Susan.
Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck Susan. Like awful.
Big middle finger vibe, baby.
Yeah,
big middle finger vibe.
She's awful. Cool. So that was season 2, episode 2, Adrift. I hope you all enjoyed our little review here. If you're new here, make sure to give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Helps us out tremendously. Leave a comment on our YouTube channel if you want to watch the video version of this podcast where you see me.
And give it a like.
Yeah, give it a like and
give it a little subscribe action.
Yeah, and you'll get to see me potentially fall out of my chair and look like I'm about to pass out.
It was really funny. And you also get to see how many times I pull her here for our entertainment.
Not Polar Seltzer. But this has been Hot Mess Moments. Make sure to follow myself at 8-Bit Dylan. If you want to talk about anything Lost related or have any questions or comments specifically about Lost, especially if they're spoiler filled, send them over to at 8-Bit Dylan on Twitter. We don't want Beth to see any of those spoilers. Or just make sure to follow us also at Hot Mess Moments on Twitter. And Beth, where can they find you?
They can find me at AugustaWind11. And if you want to talk about The Nanny, first of all, make sure you're commenting on those videos and those podcasts when they come out on Tuesdays. But to keep them spoiler-free from Dylan, make sure you're sending those comments, those interviews, those questions, those whatever to me. I would love to see them.
Yeah. So this has been Hot Mess Moments. We will see you next Thursday with another Lost podcast. And until then, bye.
Bye.